When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. On the presidential campaign trail, how Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to showcase his youth versus leading contenders nearly twice his age. Also, although the major stock market indexes have shot higher so far this year, some investors are looking at signs that may indicate trouble. And the complete guide to haggling in this economy. Monday on This Morning, America's First News.
Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Go! Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
I'm ready.
And we welcome you to the show on this Saturday morning. We'll feel right, along with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden, as we are officially, even though the calendar may say summer is still a couple weeks away, it's feeling like summer.
You know, and we've had like the best possible spring since the 1st of May.
Yeah. A little cooler temperatures, which has been good.
Before the 1st of May, we don't count that because that was just like winter.
Yeah.
But like that last weekend of May, we've had such nice weather. I mean, almost straight 70s for like a whole month and almost a half. It doesn't get any better than that. It's been perfect weather for planting. It's definitely not too late to plant anything, so we can get out there and plant roses. We can plant trees and shrubs and vegetables and flowers, and the weather's just cooperated so well. But you're right, summer's coming.
Yeah.
We know the heat's on its way. So,
and everyone that has already planted, chances are everything's starting to come up, and this is just an exciting time.
I'm not seeing any snow in the forecast, which is really nice.
It's about time that we can finally confidently say no more snow.
In 2005, on Flag Day, which is the 14th of June, it was my youngest daughter's first birthday, and we had 3 inches of snow.
On June 14th?
On June 14th of 2005. Well, it was actually the day before, so it was on the 13th. So it was on the 13th. On the day before her birthday, we had 3 to 4 inches of snow.
Seems like I remember I happened to be trying to get a group of girls to go to a girls' camp about that time. And I remember that crazy
happen.
weather.
Yeah, it can happen. I think in 2019, around the first day of summer, 20th of June, it was so cold. We were staying up in up at Beaver Mountain overnight with a girls' camp. We were on Bear Lake, and the storm blew in, and it blew everybody off the beach. Like literally blew everybody off the beach, and it capsized some boats and stuff. It blew so hard, and this cold front rolled in, and we froze to death. It was so cold. It was like one of the coldest campouts I've ever been a part of. It was seriously freezing.
So there is still the possibility that Mother Nature might throw a curveball. But
when there's a lot of snow up in the mountains, it can happen. But we've been so fortunate with the water situation. We've gotten plenty of water, and it's come down at a manageable pace. I mean, we've had some flooding around. I won't say it's been perfect, but it could have been much worse. Much worse.
So. And for many, you're probably maybe already enjoying some of the fruits of your labors. My wife was making fun of me the other night. I was watering our fruit trees, and I looked over. I'm like, oh, hey, there's another stalk of asparagus coming up. I'll just grab that and munch on it.
I'm just gonna eat it.
Yeah, and she comes outside. And she's like, You're not even going to cook that? And I'm like, no.
It's like so good when it's fresh
Tastes
like that.
great when
it's
it's
amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. So, so many things to talk about. Anderson's, we still have a great selection of plants. We've been getting new shipments of shrubs and trees in and perennials. This is kind of like our perennial week leading up to Summerfest. So Summerfest is next week. So we try and do a perennial fest right before that. We've done some really, really fun things with the perennials, and it's prime time for getting perennials planted. But lots of great plants rolling into Anderson's right now. It's a really good time to get out there and do some planting. But today we have a special guest on the show, and we've got Clayton Smith from Monterey. Clayton, so glad to have you on the show.
Glad to be here as always.
Yes, we love having you on the show with your vast knowledge on all kinds of different plant and garden problems. And I've got my list of things to talk about. So we've got quite a few things to visit about. You've had some really interesting weather in California this year as well, too, haven't you?
Oh, my gosh. So I live up in the mountains between Yosemite and Tahoe, and all I've been doing this season is giving a lot of talks. And over 3 nights, my wife was with me over one big series of nurseries up here. 1,000 people I gave over 3 nights.
Oh, wow.
Just
That's
different
awesome.
talks on diseases and stuff.
Yeah.
One night, we couldn't even make it home because of all the snow. We found a hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, a lot of snow up there, and it's all melting, and now California's going to flood. It's going to just wash away into the ocean, so...
Yeah, and I'm okay with that because I'm at 4,000 feet, so I'll have a beautiful view of the ocean right there.
Yep, dang it. Well, we are grateful for the water, and here in our valley, we're grateful that it has come down at a very, very gradual pace. I mean, we've had some really high rivers, but they didn't seriously go over the banks, a lot. So we've been very fortunate with our snow melt. But we're to the point where we're starting to plant stuff. So we're planting things, and we're starting to see, all of our trees have bloomed, but I have seen a little bit of fire blight showing up. So even though the trees are finished up, we're starting to see some damage. And it's that time of year to try and do some preventative and some curative as well too to keep that from spreading. And I know you've got some great products to help with fire blight, other than just pruning, which is an absolute necessity as well too.
Yeah, I was asked to write a series of papers on what we're going to see as far as diseases, insects, and weeds this year. And top of my list on diseases was fire blight. Because of it, just all the flowers and everything that are opening now, and that bacteria is just how prevalent, and the bees are coming out, and it's just wonderful seeing all the plants blooming. But yet we're going to see all the bacteria coming along with the bees as well.
We had perfect weather. We had perfect weather condition for it, where we were not too hot but not too cold, cool nights, and then we had a lot of humidity because we were getting little thunder showers almost on a daily basis when the trees were in bloom. So not cold enough to freeze, but higher humidity than normal, and that's kind of perfect conditions for fire blight to spread.
Right. It's one of those diseases that it's good news, bad news. Good news is in the rose family. Bad news is the rose family's really, really big.
Yeah.
So for those who, and we saw this in a fruit tree a couple of years ago, Clayton, can you talk about some of the things that you can look for that are oftentimes symptoms of fire blight?
So most of the time, fire blight comes into bees, again, to mobility, and it hits the flowers first. And so bacteria, Bacillus amyophoria, and it spreads down from the flowers downward. And it has this reddening of the twigs and of the stems, and it just moves downward. It just interrupts the vascular systems of the plant. And we can do a couple different things to control it. We can either cut those branches off, and we recommend 12 inches, 14 inches below, and then below the redness. And every time you cut, you can see them inside that reddening. And you want to go way below that into the live tissue. But you have to dip your shears in a 10% bleach solution or Consent solution.
Yeah.
Or
the Consent's excellent. Yeah, the Consent's really good for that. So.
Right. Or we can spray them during the blooms to stop it. There's a number of different solutions that we can use for those to stop the bacteria from spreading down to the plant. And Mark, you have a couple of those solutions.
Yeah. So my go-to for fire blight, especially when the trees have been infected already, is the garden foss, and that just does such a great job at slowing the spread of the disease down, and protecting the tree earlier if you get it on early enough. So it's been an awesome product for us, and super easy to apply either as a spray or as a basal bark treatment. So right on the trunk, it just does an awesome job.
And you can't get any resistance to it because it's phosphoric acids and potassium salts and steroids. So it just burns it out is the mode of action. Just gets in there, just burns that bacteria. Just burns it right out.
Interesting.
And what we recommend is during the height of the season, take it down to like 2 teaspoons or 3 teaspoons. If you have to spray more, if you want to spray a little bit further out, you go up to the higher amount, 5 teaspoons per gallon. So it depends on how your plants are being affected.
There you go. We have noticed that with the garden foss, it just kind of invigorates the plants as well too. So when you've got a plant that's been like damaged with a disease or another problem, it'll just kind of invigorate the plants just a little bit as well too. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, and I think that's because it is being phosphoric acid, potassium salts. Basically, sort of a fertilizer a little bit, but it just kind of builds that strength back into the stem. And I think you're right on that point as well.
Yeah. And the garden foss does a great job on other diseases as well too. We've had excellent results on anthracnose, on maples, and also on oaks as well too. And it's great for a bunch of different mildews as well too. And it works systemically.
Yeah, and root rots. So and it has a pretty intense label on it. It's not the easiest label, and I spent a lot of time talking to people across. So part of my job has changed this last year or so. So I get to answer questions across the United States now. And sometimes people forget there's a 3-hour difference. Call me up at 5 in the morning. But I got somebody call me last week from Minneapolis on Pachysandra blight. Of course, that's a bacteria. And I answered it. My wife goes, "Why is your phone on?" But,
and 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
But
but I answer it.
Yeah, it's
the only time my phone's off is on Sundays. So that's kind of
there. Yeah, that works. So super effective on the fire blight. If you're able to spray before the blossoms come, I guess when the blossoms are out, the liquid cop is really great too. I know your product liquid cop is good for like prevention while the blossoms are open, but after the blossoms have already fallen off and the trees have been infected, unfortunately, garden foss is kind of like your only choice.
You can use you have streptomycin there.
That's streptomycin.
That will work too, and I like to switch them out every now and then just to stop any life cycles and stuff like that. But with the garden foss being an acid base, you don't get any resistance build-up after continual use.
Have some options.
That's what makes it nice.
Yeah, have some options there. Since we're talking diseases, we can kind of shift gears a little bit and maybe go into. We're starting to see mildews popping up again because we have had warm days, cool nights, a lot of thunder showers. I mean, it's been very interesting. Usually in the spring we don't get this many thunder showers, so we're seeing a lot of afternoon thunder showers just popping up during the day, and it's been wonderful because it's kept things nice and cool here, but has kicked up a lot of diseases. So mildews are really starting to show, and you've got some great options between the complete disease control for a biological option, a biofungicide, as well as the liquid cop, for a good old standard copper-based fungicide that does a great job on leaf spots and rusts and mildews and things like that.
So part of my paper was I broke the leaf diseases into 2 categories. It was published last year. It was soft diseases and hard diseases on the leaves. So your soft would be like your powdery, your downy, and even rust and rust are very strange, as you know.
Right.
And then you have your hard diseases, your black spots, your brown spots, and then anthracnosis, which are ribbons. So I can spray my soft diseases and heal those, and the leaf will come back 100% beautiful. And then your hard, your spots, I'll spray those. I stop the diseases, but the spots will still be.
Are going to stay there.
I call them
right.
hard
Right.
diseases.
Once the damage has occurred, it's not going to like magically fix that.
But I stop them from spreading. That's the whole point.
Right.
So on your soft diseases, in your powderies and downies, that complete disease does a great job. It's live bacteria, and I like when I give talks, I like people how try to pronounce it, and it's really funny when they do so. That Bacillus amyosporus liquidfacius,
which is a mouthful. Yes, that's a mouthful. So.
That's why they call you in the middle of the night, Clayton, is because you're the only one that can pronounce that.
Yeah.
Whenever I talk to a group of nursery people, I say, "Here, pronounce this." And just a blast, and none of them can do so. My wife thought it was strange practicing it in front of the mirror. Now she understood. So, but it's a live bacteria. It gives off what's called leptoprotein, and it just kind of eats that fungus out. And we also use that as a root control as well. And every time I put a plant in the ground, I drench my roots.
Yep.
And it'll stay there for the life of the plant, protecting it.
And I do that too, like religiously with my tomato plants and my peppers and my squashes and my melons. It makes such a huge difference on whether we get early or late blight on our potatoes, or whether we get it's a little bit of verticillium or fusarium into the tomato plants. It has just almost completely stopped all those diseases that are consistently in our soil. It's been awesome.
But as far as leaf diseases go, I was across the country, but sometimes they'll say, "Hey, go there." I was in Pennsylvania giving a talk, and my kids called me up at the greenhouse in my property and said, "Dad, there's this live stuff growing there. Plants with powdery mildew." And I said, "Okay, grab ball number 4." Because I had everything lined up before I left. Because I don't trust anybody. So they sprayed it on.
You're one of those then, huh?
Gone. Yeah, I'm one of those people. They sprayed it on, and the powdery mildew was gone the next day, just absolutely gone.
Yeah.
But if it does come back, you do have to use it because there's little sugar on the leaves, of course.
Right.
And it just takes care of it, and it does a wonderful job.
I love that product, and really for your money, it goes farther than almost any other product that we sell. I mean, because you're using just such a small amount. I think it's like 1 to 2 teaspoons per gallon, and you just get great control, very inexpensive product, and it's all natural. It's hard to beat. It's just a really great option.
There's some new stuff I'm testing now that we hope to bring on the market later on down the road, and I can't say too much. But this is where the industry's going, things biologicals like that. That very hopeful. So we're looking forward to it.
That is great. Well, I am planting. Well, I actually started planting, and I'm finishing up. I've got a few more tomatoes left to do, but we've been planting our tomatoes, and I do the complete disease control with that. Put a couple different fertilizers in there. One that's got some beneficial microbes and microorganisms and mycorrhiza in there as well too. And it just, the combination of the two just makes the plants just go crazy. And they get big, they produce like mad. And throughout the summer, I use that complete disease control pretty consistently. Almost every 10 days to 2 weeks on the plants and in the soil, just to keep those bacterial speck, all those different diseases that affect the tomatoes. It just takes care of all those before they even get started. So, such a great option.
I even recommend it for a lawn, but I'll tell people to do it about 2 or 3 times a year because you'll have new roots at new site points. You will inoculate those as well.
Right.
And that will fight off your pipian and your phytophthora and some of your harder diseases as well. At least keep them in check.
Right.
And you don't have to use as much. You get to use less fertilizer because they act as a pseudo biflorhizae as well.
Yeah. And so good for turf diseases as well then.
Sure.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That is sensational. So since you brought it up, we'll maybe shift gears. A lot of weeds showing up in lawns everywhere and in other places as well. So I've had to treat my patio to try and stop new weeds from coming up, and pre-emergence is a really great time to put down pre-emergence. But if you had an option for a patio or for a like a RV parking spot, or maybe you just don't want weeds coming up in your trees and shrubs or even in your flowers, I know you've got an amazing product, the vegetable and ornamental weeder that will stop all those seeds. Yeah, stop all those seeds before they come up. Unfortunately, I don't have weed impede this year. Darn it. That's like my favorite. It's my favorite product.
We're working on a new one with Prodiamine next year.
Yeah.
And it's coming close to fruition. And when I talk about pre-emergence, when I was in junior high, every day I came home, I had to pull weeds as a kid.
Yes.
I tell this story. Had I known about pre-emergence, I would have given every penny of my allowance back to my dad and said, "Here, buy this product."
Right.
Because I would not have wasted 2 hours every afternoon pulling weeds.
Pulling weeds, yep.
And God, it would save me my life. But
Every time we tell people about it, and it's like, hey, you can put this product down in around your shrubs and your trees and around your flowers and even around some edibles as well too, and it's going to kill the seeds of the weeds as they germinate and come up, and you're gonna stop basically 80-85% of the weeds that you would normally have to pull that just come back week after week, and they're just like, really? You've got something that will do that? It's like, yeah, we do. And here it is. It's called Vegetable and Ornamental Weeder. And, it really does a great job at killing those seeds as they germinate. And then you just don't have to worry about pulling weeds. So what a great product.
And you said a key thing. It kills seeds as they germinate. Most people think they kill seeds. They don't.
Yep.
They kill seeds at germination. There's this whole process called embryogenesis, which we spent a lot of time in school going through. You all know. But it kills seeds at germination.
Right.
And so it puts on like we call a carpet. And the seeds will start to germinate, hits that carpet, kills some of the enzymes, and you're done.
Yeah.
And you can walk on it, you can dance on it, whatever you want to do. It won't. It'll still be there.
It's still going to work.
The hole through that carpet.
Yep. When I'm teaching a class, I like draw a little seed, laying there on the soil, and as it opens up, I'll draw a little germ that comes out, and as it starts to root, it's like then I'll like draw a circle around it and a big X through it and say, it kills it as it starts to root, and that's really how it works. It's got seeds got to pop open, it's got to like start to root, and it just like takes all those fine root hairs off, and it's pretty much done. So.
Yeah, it's such a blessing.
Yeah. Now the vegetable and ornamental weeder will last for what, 4 to 6 months?
About 4 to 6 months, and it depends on the weed and it depends on the seed. Some are more hardy or some are not, but it does a good job.
Right.
I think the bucket of preen does 800 square feet, or Prefland and the pints will do 5,000 square feet.
Oh, yeah. It just goes so much farther.
Read the label.
Yeah, goes so much farther. And you get that longer residual, too, because usually preen, when the granule form, we usually tell people it's only going to last 4 to 6 weeks. It just doesn't have as long of a residual. But the liquid, once you put that down, you're getting 4 to 6 weeks out of it. And here it is, like the 10th of June. You put that down, you're going to get 4 months out of it. It's going to last until, the 10th of September at the least, and into October, November at the latest, and that's basically the rest of the summer. I mean, it's like the whole the growing season, and you just don't have to worry about weeds coming up all over the place. So,
again, I would give them every penny of my allowance.
It would have been worth it to go do the weeding just to be able to buy the product to prevent you from having to weed again the next time. So.
The reality probably is, Clayton, that your dad already knew that the product existed. He just wanted to teach you something by making you pull the weeds.
Yeah. Get out there and do the work, Clayton. Yeah. Get out there and do the work. So, but safe around a lot of vegetables. So we usually tell people, hey, as your vegetables are coming up, there's certain things you can use it on before they come up. And correct me if I'm wrong. Peas, beans, radishes, carrots, I believe, are on the label that you can use before they germinate. And then after stuff is germinated, you're talking like growing and transplanting plants in tomatoes, peppers, potatoes. It's the best. I mean, just
potatoes are really if you're planting potatoes, you can really plant those anytime because they're really pretty hardy.
Yeah.
So,
but Awesome product. I'm a little careful around my vines. It seems to kind of root prune some of my cucumbers, squashes, melons. So I'm not as generous around those. I stay probably at least 18 inches away from where the root system is getting established when I apply that, and absolutely stay away from the corn. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I want to make sure corn away because being a monocot, they can.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure my vines are well established.
Yep.
Beforehand.
Yep. Absolutely.
Correct.
But it can damage the corn even after it's already come up. So you got to be really careful around the corn. So.
And I think that's because it's a monocot.
Yeah. So, Clayton, I think we're going to take a little break here. We're just about to the bottom of the hour, so you just hang on. We've got a whole bunch more questions for you. We'll just remind our listeners, Anderson Seed and Garden, we've got beautiful plants in right now, perennials, all in bloom. We've got some gorgeous shrubs and trees that have just arrived. We still have flowers. We still have vegetables. It's a really great time to get outside and still do some planting. I know everybody had a late start this year, so it's kind of pushed everybody back into June, but definitely not too late to plant. Just remember the pioneers planted on the 24th of July.
And look how they turned
harvested.
out.
Yeah, they still harvested. So we are not late by any means. You can still get all kinds of things planted. And the weather's been perfect. We got plenty of water, and it's a great time to be outside and just enjoy being out in the garden this time of year. It's doesn't get any better. So, all right.
We'll have more coming up in just a moment with Clayton Smith from Monterey and Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden here on the Garden Guide on KVNU.
I'm Bill Walter, KVNU News. As the fire season begins to take shape in parts of the U.S., a Utah hotshot crew is currently working on assignment in Canada. Earlier this week, the Logan Hotshots began their assignment in the Alberta region, one of many areas in Canada experiencing massive wildfires. The Logan Interagency Hotshot Crew is based out of the Logan Ranger District within the U.S. Forest Service's Uinta-Wasatch Cache National Forest. They are one of a handful of Type 1 hotshot crews currently assigned to support firefighting operations in the Alberta region. As of Thursday, 2 other Type 1 crews from Utah were on out-of-state assignments. The Alta Hotshots are in Wisconsin, and the Lone Peak Hotshots are in Michigan. A judge overseeing the case against Brian Kohberger, charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students last fall, heard arguments Friday over a gag order that largely bars attorneys and other parties in the case from speaking with news reporters. A coalition of more than 30 media organizations has challenged the order, saying it violates the Constitution's guarantees of free speech and a free press, as has a lawyer for one of the victims' families. But prosecutors and the defendants' lawyers insist that it's needed to prevent prejudicial news coverage that could damage Kohberger's right to a fair trial. Second District Judge John C. Judge indicated he would rule later on the gag order and on a separate issue of whether to allow cameras in the courtroom during further proceedings. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly afternoon and evening over the weekend. High temperatures, upper 70s, close to 80 degrees. Lows at night around 50. For the latest news, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Mark Remillard. The Nuggets are 1 win away from their first ever NBA championship after defeating the Heat last night in Game 4. Aaron Gordon led the way for Denver with 27 points, while the Joker added 23 and 12 rebounds. But the hero down the stretch was Bruce Brown, who dominated the fourth quarter.
Hands it off to Bruce Brown, who's got the last 6 points for the Nuggets. He's got 16. They haven't lost this year when he scores over 12. Drives, reverse layup, good!
As heard on ESPN, Brown's 11 points in the fourth quarter helped push the Nuggets past the Heat 108-95. Coach Malone after the game.
Brown in the fourth quarter was amazing. He had, I think, 21 points. 11 of those were in the fourth quarter. They were giving Jamal so much attention that let's get Jamal off the ball, let Bruce make some plays. He was aggressive, got to the basket, made shots. And tonight was an impressive performance.
The Nuggets hope to seal their first NBA championship at home on Monday night. This is ABC Sports.
Here's Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn. The way you water your lawn makes a big difference. Water restrictions and water costs have both increased over the last few years. The Lawn Doctor offers a popular service to help keep your lawn green and healthy while watering less. One application of our HydroGuard service reduces your watering frequency by up to 1 day a week, saving you water and money.
Watering help, weed, fertilizer, and pest control. Call the Lawn Doctor at 753-LAWN or go to lawndoctor.com.
Over 60 and retired? Making ends meet, especially at the supermarket, is tough. BenefitsCheckup.org is a free website that helps you pay for food, medicine, even utilities. Visit BenefitsCheckup.org.
From gardening to landscaping, it's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide here on KVNU with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. I'm Will Feelwright. Joining us on the phone lines has been our special guest, Clayton Smith with Monterey, as we've been talking about how to treat fire blight. In the last segment, we were talking about some of the products from Monterey Garden Foss to be able to help take care of some of the plants, how to take care of grasses that are coming up in your flower beds.
The vegetable and ornamental weeder. I love that stuff. Yeah.
But also, we've had a lot of questions about some of the other problems that we're seeing with lawns, gardens. We could even get into insects, too, because, let's face it, the mosquitoes might just be taking over Cache Valley in the next week.
Yeah, for sure. And grasshoppers, we're starting to see a lot of grasshoppers, too. Mosquitoes, grasshoppers, aphids, the bugs are kind of popping out of the woodwork, but we're seeing weeds like crazy. I think this year we've had more people coming in that have had like major weed infestations than any other year that I can remember in recent memory. Dandelions and clover and mallow and thistle and morning glory, just like all over the place. And I've been telling people, it's like, we had a hot, dry summer last year. All the trees created a lot of seeds, and all the plants create a lot of seed because they're trying to reproduce themselves. And then we get a winter like what we just had with so much moisture.
A lot of water.
They've all come up, every single one of them. So people have come in, they've got like linden seedlings all through their flower beds and maple seedlings all over the place underneath their trees, and just lots and lots of weeds. And it's just circumstance, It's just like there's perfect conditions for all those weeds to just take off like crazy. And Clayton, I know you've got an amazing product that is wonderful for the hardest to kill weeds that are out there, whether it's thistles or morning glory or wild violets or oxalis. I mean, some of those are really hard to kill weeds. You've got Spurge Power, which is also one of my favorite products that just takes out broadleaf weeds and leaves your turf. Leaves the grass.
Yeah, and it has 3 different actives in it, and getting rid of the hardweeds because the broadleaf hardweeds, because there's a lot of stored energy with them, so you just can't use like a regular 2,4-D product. Right. You got to get into the heart of that weed to get rid of that stored energy. That's why we add triclopyr, which is in a lot of your brush and vine killers, and that's what gets into the life of that weed and just destroys that inside of it. Is how it works.
Yeah, and it's a little slower acting too. I've had people take the Spurge Power, and it's like, use this. It's going to get your morning glory. It's going to get your wild violets, and they come back like a few days later, like it's not showing anything. It's like, just be patient. Just be patient.
Give it a little time.
Yeah. I tell them that this is slow and insidious. And so the plant absorbs it in, and it gets down into the root system, and it kills that from the inside out, just like you're describing. And all of a sudden, I've had customers come in 3 weeks after they purchased the Spurge Power, and they were trying to get rid of really large Russian thistle. And they'll come in like 3 weeks later, and they're like, the thistle was just like thriving, doing great. And all of a sudden, I went out there, and there's a hole in the ground where that thistle used to be because the root was so big it just left this giant hole in the ground.
Yeah. We got this weed up here called Mountain Misery. It's in the rosacea.
Did you say Mountain Misery?
Mountain Misery, yeah.
That is a cool name. I love that. That's what we should call a puncture vine around here. Yeah. So Mountain Misery.
And people try Roundup on it. Any glyphosate. It'll kill the top of it.
Won't do anything. It comes right back. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's stored energy. So you got to use something like this with triclopyr in it. It goes in, and they'll call me if it's not working.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, it is. It's inside destroying that stored energy.
Yeah.
And they'll call me back, trust me. And then overnight, the plants collapse, just like the puncher vine, because there's nothing for it to live on. Then they call me up and go, I'm so sorry.
My weeds are all gone. Yeah. So there's a really cool product, and I know this is not your product, but we have had such great results. We've had such great results mixing it with the Spurge Power. So I've got people who come in and they're like, I have jointed horsetail rush, which is we call it snake grass around here. Mm-hmm. So hard to kill. It's like really, really hard to kill. And they're like, I've got morning glory with roots that are like 5 feet long. We usually have them add a surfactant, an adjuvant in there with it. And Monty's makes one that's called Nano Boost. And the Nano Boost has nanotechnology in there that makes your molecules really jagged and pointy, and so it punctures the cell structure really, really quickly. And so when they come in and they're like, I've got snake grass to kill, we have them add that in with the Spurge Power, and it just like devastates things. Like the best combination of products when I've got customers that come in, they're like, I've tried for 10 years to get rid of this weed. I need the stuff that's really going to get it. I give them that, get them the Nano Boost, and they come back like 3 weeks later and they're like, magic. This stuff is like the best.
Yeah.
So
it's super concentrate. You're talking like a 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces to 2 gallons.
Oh yeah. And 2 gallons will cover 1,000 square feet easy. So super.
So people go, why is this pricey? It just covers a lot.
It's very concentrated, so it really, really does a great job on the hardest to kill weeds. But it won't hurt grass, except when the temperatures are too hot. I have burnt my grass before with the Spurge Power. So what's your temperature restrictions? Is it 90? Is it 90 degrees?
90, 95. I would say,
yeah.
Keep it off. And, warm season grass kind of keep it away from too, but your cool season grass, it does a pretty good job.
Remind our listeners, the weeds die better when they're healthy and well watered.
Right.
And fertilized instead of stressed. So
it moves in as the plant grows.
Yep. And so you want to make sure and either, fertilize your lawn, water, get those weeds really healthy. That's when your weed killer is going to work the absolute best. Temperatures above 90, temperatures below 90 and above 50, 55. Spurge Power has some pretty good cool power as well too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So we use it regularly in the fall, and it just really does an awesome job on everything that's kind of lingering around after the summertime. It gives you a nice, good, clean, fresh start for the spring. So does a great job. We just planted all of the flower beds and on Center Street last week, and all the hanging baskets are put up on Main Street and in front of Anderson's, and all there on Center Street. So we're trying to beautify and make things look nice. There's a couple products that are made right here in Cache Valley by Bicor, which is your sister company, right? So you said the Monterey is the Monterey family that.
The Brandt family.
The Brandt family.
I was just out there visiting.
There you go.
Yeah, I was just out there visiting you, and I went over and visited Brandt because I was working on a project with them. And the Brandt, we're just a family-owned company. Brandt is really into farming. They make the Market Blue and some of the other things. Our horticulture oil, Tritec, that is a Brandt
product
item. Right, and it's they all treat us just like one big family. We're not a big corporation. This is what we do.
Yep, and
Bicor is part of that family.
Yeah, and Monterey sells Bicor's products. So we've got Nutri-Green, we've got the All-Purpose, and we've got the Pro Bloom, and we use those products on a lot of those plants on Main Street and on Center Street, and they've been so great to share product with us to sample and to try and to test, and it's been great to really help us out. But we feed pretty heavily with those products. The Nutri-Green's a nice balanced. It's a 5-10-5 with a lot of micronutrients in there. All-Purpose has a little higher nitrogen. That's a 10-9-5, as I recall, with a lot of micronutrients. And then the Pro Bloom's got like a high potassium to really help the plants bloom. And we rotate those fertilizers. So we're doing a high nitrogen on our hanging baskets to get them to crawl. and to cascade. But then later in the week, we'll use the Pro Bloom to get them to bloom like crazy. So we're doing like a higher nitrogen all-purpose type fertilizer on Tuesdays. And then on Fridays, we're going with a more of a bloom version. And this is what we do on the hanging baskets on Main Street and on Center Street. But we also do all the flower beds with it. So we're feeding them quite a bit. And they are some of the best all-around, all-purpose products that we've ever used, made right here in Cache Valley at Bicor.
Yeah, that 17% phosphorus does a great job. Potassium does a great job.
Yeah, on the Pro Bloom.
Now it's just on the program. I was just out your way, and your nursery was just cranking. Just beautiful area. Love it.
Yeah. And with all the flowers out there now, just give us a couple of weeks, and by the 4th of July, they'll be crawling all over the place and looking great. But what I will usually tell my customers when they come in and they say, "Oh, my flowers are not like performing like yours. You know, how come yours are doing so great?" And I'll tell them I'll ask them, "How often do you like to eat, Will? How often do you like to eat, Will?"
24/7.
Exactly. You want to eat like all the time.
All the time.
You know, it's like, and that's funny. That's basically the answer that all the customers say too. It's like, I'm like hungry all the time. I could like eat all the time. It's like, you know what? Your plants are exactly the same. Yeah. They want to eat all the time. But if you're only feeding them on Mondays, you know, they might have food Monday and Tuesday and maybe Wednesday, but every time you water them with straight water, you're leaching a lot of that fertilizer out, and it's like disappearing, whether it's running out the bottom of your hanging basket or it's moving to a different location, but you're diluting that fertilizer every time. So by Thursday, all the food that you put in there on Monday is gone if you're doing a water soluble or liquid fertilizer. And so then they go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday without eating. So they're like going on a 4-day fast, and then you feed them again on Monday, and they go, you know, buffet. My daughter would say they go ham on them, you know. Yeah. So and then they starve for another 4 or 5 days, and so you gotta feed them, and you gotta feed them consistently, and that's why the baskets look so amazing on Main Street, and the flower beds go crazy on Center Street, because we do Tuesdays and Fridays, Tuesdays and Fridays, Tuesdays and Fridays, and so there's always a source of food out there. So any thoughts on that, Clayton?
Yeah, and I agree with you. And a lot of these fertilizers have all 3 different forms of nitrogen. People don't realize the 3 different forms, so they go from fast to slow.
Yeah.
So they're releasing it.
Did we lose? Oh, there we go. Lost you for a second there, Clayton. So say that last.
Yeah, my wife is trying to call me.
There we go. Say that last thought again, because we lost you there for a second.
I love my wife. So they.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, there you go. They have all of these have 3 different forms of nitrogen: ammoniacal, nitrate, and urea form, and they release at different times depending on temperature and or activity in the soil as well. Different. So a lot of fertilizers will only have one. There's one I won't talk about that I will never use, but I tell people like putting plants on crack. These are not that way. They release at different times. You know who I'm talking about.
Right.
And so these release at different times depending on temperature and what's going on around them. So, which is what you want. And which is why I like these so much.
Yeah, such amazing fertilizers, and not only do they have the major nutrients in there, the NPK, but they have all the micros as well too. And that's the one thing that we notice with the hanging baskets, especially where they're getting watered every day, because it's 95 to 100 degrees outside, so you have to water them every day, and they lose the iron. The iron's just not there for them, and so all of a sudden your plants are kind of yellowing up, and you're like, what the heck's going on? I'm giving them plenty of fertilizer, but they need that iron, and so the Nutri-Green, the all-purpose, and the Pro Bloom have all those micronutrients in the quantities that will maintain your plants really quite well. But if they do start to show some real deficiencies, and sometimes in July when it's really, really hot, we will boost those fertilizers with the iron combo chelate, because it's got that 4.5% iron in there with it to really green them up and make them look good again.
And I tell people when I give my talks, your secondaries are just as important as your primaries. Your iron, your magnesium, and your calcium. I actually call them the choo-choo train of photosynthesis. because they make the other elements work. They pull
work better. Yeah.
the other elements around to be photosynthesized. The iron is like the engine of the ore, then the magnesium is the ore car, and they pull them around to get the bonding done to be photosynthesized. So they are just as important.
That's a great analogy. So what we will do sometimes to really help with water retention is on top of doing a liquid fertilizer that we can hit them with and give them a quick boost. But if we use the Nutrigel, it's got a slower release fertilizer in there. Put it right in the holes with the plants. Kind of work it into the soil. Make sure it's right there in the root zone. The roots will grow into that, and it holds 100 times its weight in water, and so it'll just absorb up all the moisture that you put out there and then gradually release it back to the plants with a little bit of nutrition in there as well too that comes out as it releases the water. But the Nutrigel will last like all summer. It's like a summertime.
Yeah, it's a 12-13-9. It has some iron in it, and it's been baked twice, so it doesn't pop up as much as some of the other ones. Right. So it doesn't break the soil and make it 2 or 3 times as much.
Right.
And it covers a lot for the price. So
we've seen some of the products when you add it in, it puffs the soil up because it just increases in volume so much. Have not noticed that with the Nutrigel, even though it holds a lot of water for your plants to pick up and utilize after each watering. So what a really great product. So when we dig our holes for our plants, you can just sprinkle that right in the holes, kind of work it into the soil, plant your plants right on top of it, and then they'll just go like crazy.
I got a couple of nurseries that's all they use in their hanging baskets.
Yeah,
it's just a Nutrigel.
Is a Nutrigel.
They'll just set it right out by their hanging baskets, and that's the only thing they'll use.
They just let it go. So I'll have to tell you, though, I think my favorite product that we get from Bicor is their seed starter. The seed starter is hands down my favorite, and I know it's not their number one seller, and a lot of people don't even know what it is. They don't even use it. It's very unobtrusive on the shelf. I mean, it doesn't jump out and say "buy me" because it's a 1-1-1 fertilizer, so it just looks very bland and very it just doesn't have a whole lot. It doesn't jump out. It doesn't have a whole lot in it. But I'll tell you what, when I use that to start my seedlings, they root like crazy and are so healthy that I use it on everything that I start. So when I'm starting my carrots out in the garden, they gets watered with the seed starter. When I start my tomato plants indoors before I transplant them outside, they get the seed starter. When I'm starting microgreens in our warehouse facility, we start them with the seed starter. If I'm planting grass seed out in my turf, it gets seed starter. That stuff is just amazing. Germinates quicker. Plants are just super vigorous and healthy right when they germinate, and it just makes their root systems just go crazy. Love that stuff.
Yeah, and when you look at when we look at embryogenesis, what seed has to go through just to germinate, it's amazing.
Yeah.
When you study it, and I'm just in awe just looking at a seed, and my wife thinks it's strange sometimes. That's okay. She's been in 37 years. She has to live with that.
It is an amazing process, though. It's a miracle, and there's everything that it needs is right in there to get started. But then after it gets going, it needs to pull from its environment. Yeah, it needs to pull from its environment. So the seed starter just makes them so vigorous when they first germinate and go. It's amazing what it does to the plants.
It does have 3 different forms of nitrogen there as well.
Yeah. In the seed starter. Does it really? Does it have the urea and the nitrate in there?
It has urea and ammonitol.
Okay. All right.
And other sources.
There you go. So awesome products. And we've kind of hit all the fertilizers except for the tree treats. Is it too late to use tree treats? We have a lot of people that
I don't think it's ever too late because you're talking slow release, you're talking iron, and iron's not fast release. So is it just as long as the tree is sapping, I don't see why not. It's going to get into the trees. So I would say fall would be a little bit late, but now it's a good time as ever.
Yeah, because we have had so much moisture this year. We are going to see a lot of iron and other nutrients that were leached out of the soil. And so the available parts of the iron will be basically gone, even though there's still iron there in the soil. that the plants cannot utilize. And so I'm guessing right now we're going to see a lot of iron chlorosis in late June and early July. And so this is a time to start planning for that. Pear trees and maples and oaks just kind of tend to be a little iron chlorotic in our area, but a lot of spirea and burning bush, a lot of shrubs as well too. It's probably a really good idea to like kind of treat those preventatively, whether it's with the iron combo chelate or possibly with your Dr. Iron product is a really great one as well too.
Right.
Maybe we can talk about that. And absolutely the tree treats, because that's made for large trees that are difficult to get the right amount of nutrient into the root zone, where you can just like put it right directly into the trees. And it's got that full source of micronutrients as well as your major nutrient to keep that tree looking really good. So they've got some really great iron options. Yeah.
It has magnesium and zinc, and zinc does just the opposite of when you look at iron deficiency, where you have the veins and stuff like that. Zinc is just zinc is just the opposite effect.
So you get green margins and lighter around the vein tissue.
Right. But they're just all just as important. And like I said, iron being secondary, oh my gosh, especially when you're looking at big leaf plants. They utilize iron more than the conifers and some of the other ones because they're more endemic to the area.
There we go.
Rather than the big leaf plants as well.
So that's why you see it in the maples and the oaks more. Well, I mean, oaks because our soil's so alkaline, but maples have really big leaves for the most part. So
right.
Very, very interesting. So the Dr. Iron is a granulated version.
Correct.
The iron combo chelate's a liquid, and the tree treats are implants you can put right into the trees. The Dr. Iron doesn't stain sidewalks, does it?
No, it does not. That was one of the first products that Tommy, who started our company, came up with. That was one of his, his babies, and bless his heart. And it's done well for us. It doesn't get locked up because of the pH issue, as where a lot of iron sulfates will.
Right.
This will not, and it stays there and it's released to the plant.
It's really easy.
A lot of irons are locked up.
Yeah, really easy to apply too. You just like broadcast it out, and every time it gets water, it just kind of slowly breaks down. So really, really great product. Non-staining, has 22% iron in it? I think it's a 22.
Yeah, 21, 22, and it has the sulfur binder, which also the plant needs as well.
Yeah, and we just recommend everybody around here just use sulfur like all the time.
Especially with the way our soil conditions are.
Our pH is so high. So Clayton, I think we're coming to the end of our show. So thank you so much for being on and for sharing all your knowledge and some really amazing products from Monterey and from Bicor and even from Brandt's great family company that we love working with, and you're always awesome and gracious to come on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll be out your way again probably sometime soon.
Come see us anytime. That'll be great. That'd be great.
Thanks a lot for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you. So, Will,
got just a couple more minutes.
Our time's just about up, but I thought we better talk about what's happening at Anderson's. So, Summerfest.
Yeah.
We got Summerfest coming up next week. Should be a blast. And they always have some great things going on at Summerfest. And while you're thinking about going to Summerfest, stop over at Anderson's because it's our perennial fest that's going on. So we got lots and lots of perennials, flowers like crazy, and a lot of different ones to choose from, whether you're going for shady locations or sunny locations or just want something that blooms a little bit longer. We have some really great perennials in stock right now. Just got some new shipments of trees and shrubs, and the greenhouses are starting to thin out, but we still have some really good selection on plants, and good time to plant still.
Yeah. Plus, also, we're a week away from Father's Day weekend.
That's
so
coming up. Yeah.
If you're looking for a gift idea for Dad, a couple years ago, I got a pair of goat gloves.
Yeah.
Andersons.
Yeah.
Still keep those. I have a pair in every one of my vehicles because I just, You always need a good pair of leather gloves
when you're doing stuff. And the goat gloves are goat skin, and so they are as durable of glove as it gets. Yeah, those are some awesome gloves. But yeah, Father's Day coming up. We've got some beautiful roses. We've got some great gloves. We've got some really nice tools. Gift certificates are always great for Dad. I'm trying to get some really sophisticated rain gauges in. And we've carried them before in the past, and they make a really, really great gift for Father's Day. Yeah, they're super, super accurate. In fact, a lot of the weather stations use these because of how accurate they are, and so we're trying to get some more of those in. So that should be fun. Hopefully we'll have those bird feeders, wind chimes, all kinds of cool stuff at Anderson's. Yeah.
We'll be talking more about great gift ideas for Dad coming up next week. We hope you join us then for the Garden Guide here on KVNU.
As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU Logan, 102 FM, 610 AM, the voice of Northern Utah.